Here's how to actually learn to read sheet music. Now, I'm by no means perfect at this. I've only recently started. But as I was searching up how to learn to read this stuff, how do I understand it and play as I actually read it. So for example, I could get given a random piece of sheet music and just start playing it immediately, like flex to my friends. I kept plateauing. I didn't know what to do. I watched all of these videos and I kind of understood some concepts, but I didn't know the actual steps. Like, what do I do now? What accents do I take so I can, in a set period of time, learn to sight read? So this will be, it's a low quality video. I don't even have proper lighting, but it'll be the proper way to sight read, at least what I've done, and I truly believe that this works. So sight reading, you need to understand the point of sight reading is that you can literally just look at a music sheet and then just play immediately. That's the point, right? You want to be able to flex to your friends. You don't want to just have to spend months learning every single song you want to play. That's for very difficult performance pieces. That's cool. But one of the key tenets of being good at piano is just being able to play new pieces quickly, right? And in order to do that, you need to be able to play without looking at the piano. You need to be able to kind of just immediately know where every note is without thinking. Just being able to play whilst looking straight ahead so you know what to play next. That means you need to basically train your hands in order to just press the key as soon as you see the note. And in order to do that, there's two ways to do this. One is to learn every single note's name and then just associate it with the key you press, which is one way you can do it. But the reason I don't think this is the best way is because let's say you're in a different hand position that you're not used to. Let's say you normally do the regular C position, C, D, E, F, G. And now you've just randomly moved to a new position, you've done a jump. When you read that next note that says G, you won't really know where it is on the keyboard because you've associated G with basically pressing the pinky finger because you're on that one hand position as you practice. So you see G and you think, oh, G, pinky finger, okay, boom. But no, you're on a different hand position. So G isn't the pinky finger. G is maybe the thumb. And it's different now. But you've basically trained yourself the wrong way. So the way I think that's actually better is to use this thing that I've heard about on YouTube. It's called the landmark system. And you can probably find the video if you search up. Maybe I'll try and link it in the description. Basically, you try and read, no, maybe it's not even the landmark system. Basically, you learn a few landmarks, you learn a few notes. Rather than memorizing every single note immediately, you remember a few of the key notes that are close to most notes on the piece, on the keyboard. So you remember middle C, which is basically a ledger line below the treble clef and a ledger line above the bass clef. So that's a very easy one to remember. You remember bass F, you remember bass C, you remember treble C, and you remember treble G. And just search these up, find the positionings, and that will help you a lot, learning those specific ledger lines and those specific landmarks. Because what that does is, let's say you're playing a piece and you see some note. Rather than doing this thing where you're kind of looking at it like, okay, every good boy deserves, okay, it's D. Rather than doing that long process, you kind of just look at it and say, okay, well, I immediately know where C is because I've memorized it, it's a landmark. Okay, now let's look at the intervals, the gap between the notes. Okay, well, this note is one step above C. It's a step above. Okay, If I just press down the piano, I end up at D. So it's way quicker. You see C, okay, step above D, boom. Rather than thinking every good boy deserves, and you're just doing this long poem, bro. So you want to use the landmark system to have these landmarks, but then, more importantly, you want to use intervals. Rather than looking at the individual note names, you want to use intervals. You want to look at the distance between the notes and kind of train your hands to have this weird sort of frame map of how big the keyboard is, have this distance between each note. So then it doesn't even matter where your hand positioning is. You'll be looking at the music sheet, and rather than looking at a note and saying, okay, that's D, that's treble C, that's G, you'll just be looking at the intervals. You'll be looking at the number of lines and spaces in between it. And that allows you to kind of just look at something and say, okay, well, I know my landmark. Okay, that's D. Okay, a step down. You immediately press it. You didn't even know what note it is. Of course, it's C. A step down. Okay, another step down. And you can kind of also see patterns. These patterns can be like scale runs. These can be chords. These can be arpeggios, stuff like that. But landmarks are so incredibly important. So now that we know that landmarks are important, actually learning what landmark to use, like looking at a piece, looking at a specific note on it and just looking at how far down or up is this. If it's one semitone up or down, then you can just call that a step, and of course that's just one note up or down. If it's an entire line, kind of like how chords are played, you can call that a skip. If it's 5, you can call it a leap. You get the point, and you'll start being able to just recognize the distance between these notes and these spaces without even trying to manually count them, because you'll just see it and you'll immediately see, okay, that's a skip, without even thinking, okay, space, line, space, okay, yeah, that's 3, that's a skip. You won't even need to think. So now that we know intervals are more important than just knowing the note names, and of course you still do want to be practicing your knowledge of the note names, use sight reading apps. There's one that I literally have that's just called Sight Reader. I just use that 5 minutes a day. It helps a lot. And you want to be using intervals. Now, what I recommend, what to actually do, because now we know intervals are important, right? We know we should also be looking for patterns. What do you actually do to practice this? How do you learn? Because this theory stuff is good. Now you know what's important. But what do you do? What are the actionables in order to start learning? Because that's what you want. That's what you came here for. In order to start learning, in order to actually get good at this, here's what I recommend. So, first of all, if you've never tried to sight read before and you've never done this, I just start at the easiest pieces. You can literally just search up things. If you have a printer at home, you can literally search up like, what was it even called? Like just very easy sight reading sheet exercises just on Google. You'll find a few. I'm pretty sure there's like one called 354 sight reading exercises in C major or on C, whatever. You can get that one as well and just print out some of the pages of it and just start playing it. It's very easy exercises, and the goal is to try and read them while thinking of intervals. So that's how you do it. You look at one note, okay, how many steps up or down is that from the last note you played? Okay, that's one step up, boom. Okay, how many steps is it from that note? Okay, boom. How many? No, that note is the same note I played at the beginning of this, so I don't need to really calculate the steps. Okay, boom. It's so easy when you get to do that. So you just want to start reading very easy pieces and progressively increment the difficulty. And you can find tons of resources online, like sight reading exercises. Like, just search it up. It's really not difficult to find. You can go to your local library. If you don't have a printer, you can maybe find some books there that have sight reading exercises. Now, that will help you start recognizing the notes, along with like getting a sight reader app, learning the landmarks. Those will help you start actually reading. But then there's a new difficulty you'll face, because you'll start to notice in maybe a few days or a few weeks that you're getting better at sight reading. Genuinely, you'll realize, wait a second, before I was shit at this, I was messing up so much. Now I'm actually reading a little bit better, but I still have room to improve. But now you kind of feel like you're on the right path. You're getting better. You know that you know what to do. You just need to start learning more landmarks. You just need to kind of keep going, do intervals more, learn different chords, scales. You'll just get better as you keep going, right? Here's the thing. There's one other thing that I haven't told you. The next most important part is reading ahead. Good sight readers aren't reading the current note you're playing. Like, maybe you've done this. This is the plateau I'm facing currently. When you are playing, you'll notice at the beginning, you'll start reading the note you're currently playing. So you'll be reading, okay, that's a step up. Okay, that's a skip up. And you'll be reading it. And what you want to do is read ahead, because think about it. If you're playing like a faster piece, you don't have time to read the note you're currently on. Because what if, for example, you're playing in this position, right? You're reading the notes, okay, boom, 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 boom. And then you go to the next bar, and it's a complete leap to like here. And you aren't prepared for it mentally because you just saw it whilst you're playing it. And now you're jumping to it and you aren't prepared, and the rhythm is ruined and everything is messed up. When you read ahead, it allows you to, first of all, never be surprised. You won't be surprised with jumps or random like pattern changes or anything like that, because in theory you are looking at exactly what you're going to be playing next. If you're 1 to 2 bars ahead at all times, it's impossible to be stuck or surprised, right? But that's difficult. You're already struggling trying to process what note to currently play and then play that note. How are you expected to read 1 to 2 bars ahead, remember the previous bars, and have your hands play the previous bars automatically as you decode the rest of the piece? It just seems impossible. So, how do you do that? Truthfully, reading ahead so you can read faster, so you aren't stuck, so you can keep the rhythm, so you know what's coming. It comes down to actually trying to read ahead. Genuinely, you need to try and read ahead. That's it. Now, there are other things that you can do. You can try and like get some easy pieces, and without playing them, try and read ahead while saying out loud the note names or the intervals of the notes previous, like in the first bar. So let's say you're reading a piece. You read the first bar, you read the second bar, and then you start reading the first bar whilst you're in the middle of reading the second bar. So you'd be saying aloud like step up, step down, skip up, leap up, step down, scale 1 down. You'll be saying that out loud, but you'll still be reading the second bar. And you force yourself to look ahead to get into the rhythm of looking ahead, because you'll notice that you'll accidentally just look back to the place you were before just because you don't really know what you were doing. That's one thing you can do. And another thing is to just play very, very easy piece and try and play ahead. Well, read ahead whilst playing it. Truthfully, you just need to constantly try and read ahead. That's the only thing I can tell you. You're doing these exercises, and that's good and all. Now, whilst you're doing them, you'll notice not your progress, it won't decrease, but you'll notice the momentum you had, like the skill level that you were reading at, will decrease, because now you're reading ahead, you're forgetting what notes to play, You just need to consciously try and read ahead. And every time you do that, you're stacking up this little bit of XP. Even if you don't notice it, you are. And as you keep doing that over a long enough period of time, you will get better. And I want you to remember this. I have people I know. My friend has been playing piano for, I think, 10 years now. My music teacher has been playing for a while. They can sight read. They can look at a new piece and actually start playing it instantly. They have never once actually practiced sight reading. Like I asked them, they've never once sat down and said, you know what, I want to purposely learn how to sight read so I can play new pieces. Let me learn how to read intervals. Let me learn all of this. They haven't done that. They've just been playing piano, trying to get better. They've been learning new pieces, enhancing their repertoire. They've been just playing things they are interested in, playing scales, stuff like that. They literally didn't do anything. My friend, he was told by his music teacher to start like reading very easy pieces in his free time just to get better at sight reading. His teacher tried to tell him to do that, and he never did just because it was so boring. He's still good at sight reading despite never doing it. It probably took him less than 10 years, but that's how long he's been playing. Imagine you. Maybe there's something that's a little bit more efficient, sure. But think about it like this. You are dedicating yourself. You are actively thinking that you want to learn sight reading. So if you actually purposely try to learn it, of course, it just makes sense that you are going to get better at sight reading faster than my friend. It is inevitable. It is a fact that if you keep staying on this path, you'll get good at what you want to get good at. So don't get into this habit of like after you go on this video, you look for another sight reading video. Now you know what you need to do. Genuinely, you know that if you just keep practicing, you will get better. You know that it's inevitable. People who haven't even tried to sight read can sight read. You who's actually trying and learning the best ways, intervals, actually starting out with easier pieces. It's inevitable that you get good and faster than everyone else. So here's what I want you to do. Don't go onto some random other sight reading video. You know what you need to do. Download a sight reading app where you can find like notes, like NoteRush, for example, or just type up sight reading on the App Store and just get one of those apps. And every day, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just use it consistently and just decode the notes, get better at your landmarks. Whilst you're doing that, make an effort to go to your library or just print out some basic sight reading exercises and just try and read them using intervals, purposely trying to read ahead. Maybe you won't be able to read ahead at the beginning. Maybe you just need to focus on your intervals first because you aren't good at that at all. Once you get better at that, you can start progressing a little bit more. And before you know it, you'll be playing advanced pieces, sight reading, first time. Some other important notes to note is that you want to focus on rhythm. Rhythm is extremely important with sight reading. Playing the right note is important as well. But you want to make sure your rhythm is correct. You don't want to be like pausing to play the correct note. You want to make sure you're just playing in the right rhythm because that's the most important. When you get to more difficult pieces, rhythm will be extremely important. You'll get like half notes and full beat notes and like you'll get all of these different notes. You'll need to play right. You can't be stopping to fix mistakes. It's sight reading for a reason. You do it for the first time. So remember, keep your rhythm, keep your tempo. Don't stop to fix mistakes. You aren't trying to learn this piece. Just play one piece, try and sight read it, then move on to a next piece. Don't linger on that piece. You aren't trying to learn it. You're learning to sight read. Hope this video helped. Remember, consistency is over a lifetime. Bye-bye.